peoples of the worldwide federated internets. What's good? You can hate them or you can join them. Yo, before I get into this vlog / podcast today, I want to give a shout out to the homie on Instagram, JSLA. He's on the That's Not Christian podcast. Check it out. He shot me a message and was like, hey, bro, you on iTunes or any of that yet? And I wasn't. I've been thinking about it. I've been looking into Anchor. So him bringing that up, he's like the umpteenth person to bring it up. So I loaded my first episode onto Anchor and also on Spotify. And hopefully in the next coming days, I'll have some episodes on iTunes too. And maybe somewhere in the near future, I will convert all my older videos into audio format and upload the back catalog onto the podcasting platform so you can listen to the audio. Anyway, with that being said, I was watching some videos, just looking at random things, and it never fails when things happen. I always happen to be reading a verse or going over some verses, or just happen to be in a book and there's verses that have to deal with the very thing that I've been seeing, throughout that day or maybe the day before. But something that comes up more often than not is people who hate on companies and hate on people for their achievements. And I've dealt with this in another video before, but I think one of the main reasons this happens, and I know this from personal experience because I have been in this frame of mind or what have you. I've been in a frame of mind in the past where I look at somebody that has something and I'm like, well, why do they have that? Why do they have this? Or why did they get this? Or why did they get that promotion? Or why do they have that job making $120,000 a year? Or why do they have that job making this much? Instead of evaluating how they got there, what they did to get there, and what it is that they did that I'm not doing. Now, sometimes that's not the case. There's some companies that start and they have an unfair advantage. That happens. There's some people that no insiders have some inside information that the rest of us don't have access to. I don't think you're ever going to get around that. But I think that doesn't negate the fact that there's people who hate big corporations and hate people with money for one reason, and that is envy. I know this because I was once there. But I was going over this verse and it kind of brought this idea back to mind. So you know how I do. Let's get into that. So in the book of Proverbs, chapter 21 and verse 25 and 26, the Bible says, the desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor. That's hard right there. His hands refuse to labor. Goodness. He coveteth greedily all the day long. And to contrast him, but the righteous giveth and spareth not. So there's several things or several ideas that verse covers. But the one thing that kind of stood out to me, just because this is something that's kind of been on my mind, especially in today's climate, like not everybody, there's a large group of people who have a big issue with people being rich, with people having money. That stems from envy, not in all cases, but in my opinion, that stems from envy and my own experience. My disdain toward people that had more than me was always rooted in envy. It wasn't rooted in righteous indignation. It wasn't rooted in the fact that I thought they got what they had by some nefarious means. I ain't even gonna hold you. It was just me being envious. They had something that I wanted and I didn't have it, and I was mad and I was envious. And instead of looking at what it took to get them there, instead of looking at what I wasn't doing, I was just envious. And I think a lot of people go through this exact same thing. They don't take the time to look within themselves and say, well, what am I not doing? What did I miss? Clearly, I fell off the boat somewhere. Listen to that. It said, for his hands refuse to labor. I was listening to Tim Pool, who, if you don't listen to Tim Pool's podcast and you don't watch his videos, to me, Tim Pool is probably one of the most trustworthy people when it comes to reporting on happenings of the day. I'm not saying I trust him 100%. I don't trust any man 100%, but I think, in my opinion, Tim Pool is one of the most trustworthy sources when it comes to reporting on what's going on. And he's a lefty, self-admitted lefty, more center left than anything, right? Ideologically, me and him would be on total opposite ends of the spectrum, but I respect his work. I respect what he does. He does good work. But he mentioned Joe Rogan. If you don't know who Joe Rogan is, you must be under a rock. Like, when it comes to podcasting, Joe Rogan is the GOAT. He is the king of podcasts. But he signed $100 million deal, I believe, with Spotify. That's crazy. Now, there are people, you can deny this, but this is just the facts. There are people who will look at that and who will say, he shouldn't be getting all that money just for a podcast, just for some videos he's putting up on YouTube. Look, let me tell you something. So I've been battling with some audio issues and some other issues, trying to get these episodes out and trying to make sure that my quality is decent. I'm not going to be on Joe Rogan level, but that's not to say I couldn't get there. And I'm trying to put in the work to get there. I literally am. But I've been battling through this stuff. But the one thing this has made me realize is, to put out a quality podcast and to put out a quality video, there is a lot of work that goes into this. A lot of work that a lot of people don't even know about, don't even consider, and wouldn't know. It's not just as simple as turn on this camera and record and start talking and that's it. You can do that if you just want to put out something that's basic. And I mean, even my stuff, I don't have nothing crazy. My stuff is still basic, but I'm trying day by day to add some different elements to improve upon this process and make my videos even better, right? Put my stuff out to different outlets. Now I'm putting my stuff out on Anchor and on Spotify, and hopefully it'll be on iTunes and other platforms here in the next couple days. But it takes work. It takes effort just for the little short clips that I do. I do 10, 15 minutes tops. That's what I try to keep it between 10 and 15 minutes. To do that and do it right, you have no idea how many times I've re-recorded some of this stuff. And I don't even think Joe Rogan is doing that. I don't think he's recording and re-recording. I think he goes in, they're live. He's just having a conversation with somebody else. And maybe if I was doing something like that, like having a conversation with somebody else, maybe it would be a little easier to just do it, fire and forget. Even with that being said, I could not imagine the work that goes into Joe Rogan's podcast and his vlog. I cannot imagine. That's got to be astronomical, because his quality is impeccable. Even in his audio, like I said, I've been working through a bunch of issues. My audio interface, I've had this audio interface for years, so it's about time for it to give up the ghost. So I'm going to have to replace this in a couple days. And I've been struggling through some of this stuff, trying to figure some things out. I said all that to say this is work, right? And this is not hard work. I'm not making it seem like, woe is me, it's so hard to do these videos. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, I can't be envious of somebody like Joe Rogan. One, that dude is culturally, he's an icon. You can argue with that, you can disagree with that, but it is what it is. Culturally, he's an icon. Whether me and him ideologically have differences is irrelevant. it is what it is. This man is an icon in the podcasting world, right? His quality, top notch, crazy. So I have two options. I could sit here and be like, why does Joe Rogan get this and why does he get that? Or I could put in the work. Now, let me add this caveat. I'm not doing this to get rich. Now, that's not to say, because I'm not even going to hold you, I set up my Anchor so people can donate if they want. So if you go to my Anchor, if you go to Anchor, look up Brook Nom's World and you want to donate, feel free, go right ahead. I'm not against making money off of this, but that's not why I started this. I like talking. I like talking to people. I like interacting with people. Social media is a great opportunity. Social media is a great opportunity that can be missed if we don't use it the right way. You can hear other people's ideas. You don't have to agree with what other people are saying, but you can at least hear their ideas, see their point of view, and maybe go back and do some digging and do some research. But again, coming back full circle to what I was saying, putting in the work. Sure, some companies had unfair advantages. Sure, some people got a bunch of money from insider trading. Sure, that happens. Absolutely. But there's some people that just put in the work. Why don't we just put in the work versus hating on what somebody else is doing? Part of me thinks that the reason that you have these fact checkers now on these different social media platforms and these fake news or fact check flags, false story flags on other people's stories is because a lot of these big news organizations are envious of these smaller organizations that are making waves. And you know what the difference is? These big news conglomerates have lived in comfortability for years. They've had very little competition. It's been, the same group of companies that have controlled the media as far as news and just the media in general. But now with the advent of the internet, you have these small groups of people that have humongous followings. Like I brought up Joe Rogan, humongous following. Somebody like Tim Pool, independent dude. In my opinion, Tim Pool has more accurate reporting across his various videos on YouTube and his podcast than I've seen from any news organization, whether it be Fox, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, any of those networks. Tim Pool gets busy and he comes with receipts. You might not agree with him ideologically. I know a lot of times I don't, but that man comes with receipts. If you gonna debate with him over a news topic, you better have done your research because he ain't playing around. And he puts in work. I listened to him. I think it was on Joe Rogan. He said it. It might have been another podcast, but he mentioned how much research he does on a day-to-day basis to put out his show. Respect to that man. You might not think research is a hard thing. You might think there's nothing to it. You sit down and go fact check a story and go do some research into something you want to discuss, and you will see very quickly that no, there's a lot of work that goes into that because you have to check, cross check, check again and read through mad stuff if you're going to be putting out news info. It ain't no joke. Every now and again, I'll talk about a hot topic, a news issue, a political issue. And when I do that, I'm not even going to hold you. It takes work. Mainly because I don't want to get on here looking like a fool, say something and then have to come back and say, yeah, I said this, but I'm going to have to retract that because that's not true. Now, I have no problem doing that, but I would just much rather come out and know what I'm talking about out the gate. A lot of work goes into that. A lot of work. So I think we need to stop hating. Don't hate. Don't hate them. Join them. If you see somebody doing something and you don't think that they deserve to be in a position they're in, if you're at work and you think you have a coworker that has been promoted and they don't deserve that promotion, you put in more work. Put in some more work. Go for the position. Don't hate. Join them. Stay frosty, people.